I'm probably going to give one of the answers away, but how many of you know ASL? Okay, so that's A, okay, because some of these are A, B, C, D questions, okay, and I haven't got a wizard way of doing this, so I figured that that's A, that's B, that's C, and that's D, okay? It looks like D, okay? So the answers to questions A, B, C, D. Okay. Some of them are true or false, so you can just shout out for those. All deaf parents have deaf children. False, yeah. Approximately 10% of deaf people have deaf parents. The interpreter in our in the school, she's left since I came here. She's actually left the school, and we've got a different system now. But she had deaf parents, but very few actual deaf children have deaf parents. Sign language is international. False. Completely false. A, B, C, D in British Sign Language. This is A in American Sign Language. That's A in British Sign Language. B in ASL. B in BSL. C, C's the same. D, D. So it's very different. I have to say, I think ASL is much more sensible, because at least you can sign with one hand and drink with the other. But, you know, or often if you're doing feeding assessments or eating with the children, because if I go down to do feeding or lunchtime observations, we're expected to sit at the table and eat with the students. The first time I did that, I had the coldest macaroni cheese you could ever imagine, and it was revolting. So, you know, you could at least eat and sign at the same time, or drink and sign, not in British Sign Language. So, yeah, it's very different. Each country has their own sign language, and even English-speaking countries such as America and Australia have different sign languages. And I have to say, signs, I don't know about in the US, I'm sure it probably is, but in Britain, signs are regional as well. So we sign one way in the south, but if you go up north, some of the signs are different. And in my level 2 exam, they actually bring scenarios from, they have the videos of the scenarios, and they're recorded up north. So then you've got kind of different signs in your exam, which, anyway, that was a bit crazy. Hearing aids restore hearing to normal. False, completely false. They amplify sound to various degrees, but do not restore normal hearing. So if your path is blocked by 2 people signing, what should you do? A, B, C, D. Oh, some unsures. Or walk straight through. That's the deaf etiquette way. They don't mind. You know when a deaf person has understood you as they nod in agreement. False. False. Some not sure. It's false. Okay. They've become expert nodders. It means that, you know, they avoid attention and embarrassment. They don't have to follow the conversation. But you can ask a question to check if they've understood. How do you get attention of a deaf person facing the other way? Yeah, there are other ways as well. You can stamp the floor and they feel the vibration, or the table, yeah, if they're sat at a table, or flash the lights. I was in a deaf school recently, and they've had a lot of work done in the school, and including lots of fancy technology, and it's amazing. It looks great, and I was very envious. I still am very envious, because the school I work in back home is an old building, very inaccessible as well, I have to say. We cannot take students in wheelchairs because we have stairs everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It's a nightmare as an OT. But I was in this deaf school, and the environment is lovely, and it's all swanky and new, and some of the classrooms don't have light switches, which is quite tricky when you're in a deaf school. So they're actually now having to go back and do some work in terms of installing light switches. Statistically, deaf people have the same prevalence of mental health issues as hearing people. It's much higher, okay? Estimates suggest a prevalence of mental health problems of 40% in deaf children compared to 25% in hearing. And in adults, a number of studies from different countries have indicated a significantly higher level of mental health illness. In the UK, we have a specific service, a completely separate service, child and adolescent mental health service for deaf. So we have child and adolescent mental health services in the UK, which is kind of almost like a separate branch of health. So we're like the developmental side, and then you have the mental health side. And similarly, they have a completely separate CAMS service, child and adolescent mental health service, for deafness. And we have an inpatient unit actually in our borough, in our district, but it's a national unit that can take children from, I think it's 3 to 17, and I think they take a maximum of 5 or 6 bedded unit for children who need inpatient care.